Hey everyone, welcome back. We just had an announcement from Grinding Gear Games tonight, and it was the State of Early Access update. Now, I had envisioned going through this announcement, but after I read it and I kind of took it all in, it's really a lot of stuff that has already been done. And to be honest with you, the TLDR of it is that there's major balancing issues with many of the builds and skills. There's not enough character build options and variety. The endgame progression is off, and there's not a lot of fun things to do in the endgame. That's basically the gist of this announcement. So a lot of it was stuff that we already know. So I kind of had to be like, there's really not a lot of meat in this post. Although I appreciate the fact that they've acknowledged what the issues are, what they've done, and kind of what they're going to be doing moving forward. The point of this video is I wanted to discuss kind of like the cadence of what's happening right now with, or should I say the lack of cadence with Path of Exile 1 and Path of Exile 2. So I'd like to discuss that in this video instead of talking about this update, because I think they're correlated in some way. Because obviously, off the top of my head, I'm a little bit disappointed and some red flags are going up about the lack of detail in this announcement. But I present to you my following take on what I'm calling the black cloud period right now with both Path of Exile 1 and with Path of Exile 2. And it's the black cloud period because Grinding Gear Games took a big hit. There are a lot of things that hit them hard. And just to kind of re-emphasize everything all over again, which stuff we already know. Obviously, one of the many problems and the hits that they took, one of them was the fact that they acknowledged that they thought they could manage both games. They wanted to get out a PoE league before early access. That didn't happen because while that was going on, they had to strip away resources from Path of Exile 1 to Path of Exile 2. And this is why we are now going 7+ months without a new league in Path of Exile 1. And that has reared a lot of ugliness in that community. And it's caused a lot of noise and internal stuff and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the big hits. The other big hit, and what Grinding Gear Games acknowledged, is the fact that they were overwhelmed with the popularity of Path of Exile 2, and clearly they didn't hit the mark with the end game when it comes to Path of Exile 2. And I got to be honest with you, I did a video on this explaining why the end game in Path of Exile 2 is not as polished, so I'm not going to get into the minutia. You can go on my YouTube channel and you can search for that video. It's about why the end game is not polished, and I break it down in that video. But these are big hits that Grinding Gear Games took, and they fell on the sword for it, and they came out and they told us these are the hits that we took, and we are now kind of in a holding pattern for both games. Now, we have received an update in reference to Path of Exile. They're going to be doing all these new ascendancies, these crazy ascendancies, ideas that they had on the shelf but never made it in game. So they're going to introduce that into the new league. And we've already seen some of them in the communication from Grinding Gear Games. So we know that's what they're working on in Path of Exile 1. Now, Path of Exile 2, they have a lot of work to do. And some of it was discussed in this update, but I want to talk about the cadence, the lack of cadence that's going on right now, and how I envision the cadence changing soon. And let me explain. Right now, like I said earlier, we're in the black cloud period where they took all these hits, they fell down on the sword, and now they're picking up their stuff and they're trying to get back up and make it right with both games. Again, moving forward, I just want it known that I support the theory that Grinding Gear Games wants both games and will support both games in the future. I am not someone who thinks they're going to kill Path of Exile 1 because PoE 2 is so popular. I don't fall into that category. I think there's a world where both games not only are out there, but are thriving and both successful. So they're taking their time right now because I present to you why. They're taking their time because their cadence is off. If you've played Path of Exile, you know there is a 3-4 month cadence. And what do I mean by that is there's a league every 3 months, every 4 months. It has been for so many years in Path of Exile. Now, yes, there are outliers where sometimes it was a little bit longer. It hasn't always been perfect, but for the most part, Path of Exile players are used to new content, new leagues every 3-4 months, okay? Consistently, 10 years plus, whatever, right? That has fallen by the wayside. They're going over 7 months right now. But Grinding Gear Games is collecting itself right now, and they're going to make it right and do right by Path of Exile and Path of Exile 2. So they are taking their time right now because they know once they take this next big step, introduce the new Path of Exile League and do point 2 for Path of Exile 2, they must, I suggest to you, they must start getting into a regular cadence of a couple of months, 3 months, okay? And I believe they're going to need 3 to 4 updates with Path of Exile 2. Now, Path of Exile 1, they've been there, done that. Once they get out of Settlers League and introduce a new league, they're going to go back to their regular cadence, I suggest to you. So that's the easy part. And I know a lot of people are going, what are you talking about? They've taken 7 months. They're abandoning this game. It's not easy. They know what they're doing with Path of Exile 1. They just had to strip away the resources. So when you don't have resources on the game, how can you do anything? And yes, it was a mistake. Yes, they should have handled it better. Yes, they definitely owed a lot more respect to Path of Exile 1 players because Path of Exile 2 doesn't exist without Path of Exile 1's success. So they should have been treated better. The player base from that game should have been treated with respect. So I'm not discounting that, although I disagree with how they're going about communicating their frustration, but it's your dime. I totally understand why you're pissed off. I don't blame you. It was handled poorly. But Path of Exile is going to go back to a regular routine. It's PoE 2 that's going to have the biggest hurdle to climb just because of the state of the end game. But I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. I suggest to you, yes, I'm a little bit weary about this lack of communication, even though we just got something tonight, but there's not a lot of meat on it. It is a little bit worrisome, but I suggest to you that they are going to go back to a regular cadence. They're just taking their time on this one, which I believe is going to be the longest time we're going to go without major content updates, because once they get into the next steps, launch PoE 1 new league, launch a major update in PoE 2, we're going to start seeing that regular cadence of every couple of months. What I wanted to address was the cadence of Path of Exile 2 and put that against currently what's happening to what Jonathan told us he envisioned happening. What he preferred, and this was prior to the launch of early access, he preferred, because he was asked, how long do you see early access going? Now, he, and I'm paraphrasing, would say, well, it could be 6 months, it could be 9 months, it could be 12 months. He doesn't see it being shorter than 6 months, if memory serves me correct. I think he said that once. And that's definitely going to be true. But a lot of people are saying this is going to take 5, 6 years, 4 years, 3 years. I don't believe that. But again, I don't have a crystal ball. That may come true. I don't know. Time will tell. But I believe that what Jonathan said prior to the launch of early access, he wanted that the early access would not go beyond 2025. That was his preference, that he didn't want to see it going into 2026. So I'm going to hold him to that. Even though we have this big gap right now, we literally hit the 2-month mark of early access, and that leaves us 10 months. And I think they're going to have to do 3 or 4 updates. He said they'd have to do, he envisioned early access. And again, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. But I remember him saying he saw a couple of resets in early access. So I am still going to stick to my timeline that early access is going to end in the end of 2025. Now, I was saying fall to winter, but having just gone through the last 2 months and how much needs to be done, I think now for sure it's going to be a November, December, October-ish best case scenario out of early access. Who knows? Ideally, though, when you think of it, they launched early access on December 6th. Maybe they hit the 1-year mark and that's when they transition out of it. That's the best case scenario, I think. And I'm sticking to that. I think by the end of 2025, they get out of early access. But time will tell. I don't know. That's just my estimate. But why I wanted to bring this up is they need to start. So they're taking their time now, but once they get out of this and do the next step, they need to get into a regular cadence of every couple of months. And if they do, I'm suggesting March and April is when we're going to get the new league in Path of Exile and Point 2 in PoE 2. Now, the only thing I'm wavering on, and I'm not certain about, which one goes first. I don't know if they're going to do PoE 2 first and then the new league in Path of Exile 1, which logically that might be the way because PoE 1 players are already pissed off. So what's another month? But they may do the opposite. Maybe they do the PoE 1 league first, and then a month later or 3 weeks later, they do the update to PoE 2. Only time will tell. But March and April, I'm guessing that's when they do their drops. Now, if they do that, if they stick to that timeline I'm predicting, then that gives Grinding Gear Games, in reference to Path of Exile 2, that gives them 7, 8, 9 months to get the rest of the game fixed. Is that enough? I'm optimistic and I will say yes. A lot of you will say you're smoking crack. There's no way. But that's what I'm thinking. Now, in reference to Path of Exile 1, been there, done that. Grinding Gear Games knows how to manage that game and how to continue to pump out content. The only reason why they had this fumble and mismanaged it is because they pulled everybody off of it. They should have left the skeleton crew, and we should be playing a new PoE 1 league. But that's the past. It is what it is. Once they get the new league out, they're going to be back to their regular cadence, I suggest to you, because they've learned their lesson. So I'm not concerned about the PoE leagues getting regular cadences and going back to 3 months, 4 months leagues. It's the PoE 2 and it staying in the 2025 window to get out of early access. That is the question. That is what I'm going to be looking out for to see if Grinding Gear Games can pull it off. I'm saying they can. I would love to hear what your thoughts are on that topic. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a quick update on this, if you want to call it an update. And really, I wanted to talk about the cadence of Grinding Gear Games getting back to it. I do believe this is the longest period of downtime we're going to have with Path of Exile 2, just because the next step is so important. Once they make that next step, I think they're going to get back into their regular cadences of how Jonathan said, and even in this post, they said that they want to do major content updates in PoE 2 every few months. So I suggest to you, this is the longest we're going to go, and then we're going to get into every 2 months, and hopefully 2025, the end of 2025, we get out of early access and the full game is released. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. I would love to hear them. And if you can find it in your heart to hit the subscription button. I would really appreciate the support of my content. Doesn't cost you anything, and it would mean the world to me. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. This way, when I drop content like this, you'll be the first one to know. And as always, thanks for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate it, and we'll hope to see you next time. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.